Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a part of design that is absolutely crucial but so often misunderstood: evaluation. You can think of it as the secret ingredient that takes a good idea and turns it into a truly great solution. So let's just jump right in with a big question. Your project is built, the thing is made, so is it finished? A lot of people treat evaluation like it's the final report card you get at the end of the semester, something you just tack on. But honestly, that is a huge misconception, and today we're going to see exactly why. All right, so in this explainer, we're going to follow the designer's journey to see how evaluation is really your compass, from the very start to the very end. We'll talk about defining success, putting evaluation into practice, the super important role of testing, and finally, the ripple effect your project can have on the world. Let's get into it. Okay, first things first, let's completely redefine what we mean when we say evaluation in the design world, because it is so much more than just a final grade. Yeah, forget that idea of a final exam. Think of evaluation more like your project's constant guide. It's the whole series of informed judgments you make at every single stage. From that first napkin sketch to the final product, it's what keeps you on track and, most importantly, makes sure you're actually solving the problem you set out to fix in the first place. So, how do you guide your project? Well, you have to start by figuring out what success even looks like. And that almost always comes down to this delicate balancing act between two critical things. I want you to picture a set of scales. On one side, you've got function, what the thing actually does. And on the other, you've got aesthetics, how it looks. So a high-performance football boot, that's going to lean heavily toward function. A piece of high-fashion clothing, that's all about aesthetics. But here's the thing, neither one can totally ignore the other. Finding that perfect balance for your project, well, that's the fundamental challenge for every designer out there. And this is how you make those big, abstract goals totally concrete. Just look at this example for a jewelry project. The criteria are so clear, they're specific, and you can actually measure them. All of a sudden, this vague idea of cultural jewelry turns into a practical checklist for success. It makes it so much easier to know if you're on the right track at any point. Okay, so once you have your criteria set, evaluation becomes the tool you use to navigate the whole messy, creative, and sometimes chaotic process of design. Let's see how this actually works. Here's the truth. You are always evaluating, even if you don't realize it. Every single choice you make, picking this idea over that one, choosing a material, changing your plan because someone gave you feedback, that's an active evaluation. The really crucial step, though, is to document these decisions. Why? Because that documentation, that becomes the story of your project's entire journey. Now, here's a brilliant little framework for managing this whole process. It's kind of like a secret weapon for top designers, the Deming cycle. It's just a simple but really powerful 4-step loop. You plan your next move, you do it, you check your results against your criteria, and then you act on what you found. If it worked, great, move on. If it didn't, you adjust. It's a simple system that just keeps pushing you to improve. And a huge part of that check phase involves getting your hands dirty, right? You can't just sit and think your way to a perfect solution. You have to test your ideas to see if they can actually survive in the real world. Testing is basically hands-on research. It's not something you save for the very end. It's how you answer those critical questions you have along the way. Is this material actually strong enough? Does this little mechanism work the way I think it does? Testing lets your design evolve based on hard evidence, not just wishful thinking. So really early in the process, you can use simple sketch models. These are often made from super basic materials. Think cardboard, styrofoam, whatever you have lying around. The whole point is to just quickly explore the 3D form, the size, and the scale of an idea without wasting a bunch of time or expensive materials. Next up, you've got block models. Now, these are focused purely on the visual appearance of your design. They might use materials that look like the final product, but they don't actually work. This makes them absolutely perfect for getting feedback on the aesthetics from, say, a client or a focus group. A working model, on the other hand, zooms in on function. It might not represent the whole project, but it tests a very specific part of your design, like a hinge or maybe an electronic circuit, just to make absolutely sure the mechanics are sound before you commit to building the whole thing. And finally, we get to the prototype. This is the big one. It's a full-size, fully functional version of your design. This is your last, most critical round of testing before you even think about committing to expensive, large-scale manufacturing. It's as close to the real thing as you can get. But a truly great evaluation doesn't stop with just the product. No design exists in a vacuum. You also have to step back and consider the wider impact it's having on the world around it. First, let's think about the individual. For the person using your design, does it actually improve their quality of life? Does it save them time? Does it just make them happier? And hey, don't forget about yourself. What new skills did you learn on this journey? Then you got to zoom out to the societal level. I mean, if your project went out into the world, could it create jobs? Could it help strengthen a community? And it's also really important to think about how different groups will receive it to make sure you're having a positive impact. And finally, we have to consider the environment. This means looking at the project's entire life cycle. We're talking from sourcing the raw materials to the energy it uses during manufacturing, all the way to the waste it produces at the very end of its life. So if you remember one thing, it's this. Evaluation is not an afterthought. It's an ongoing process that's woven into every single part of the design journey. It's about setting clear goals, it's about testing your ideas relentlessly, considering your impact, and at the end of the day, telling the complete story of how your solution came to be. The very last piece of the puzzle is just honest reflection. This is where the deepest, most valuable learning happens. It is not about pretending everything went perfectly. It's about being real and analyzing the entire journey, the wins and the failures, so you can understand what you would do differently next time. Ultimately, every single design project is a solution, but a great evaluation, that tells its story. So the real question to ask yourself is, what story of challenges, of discoveries, and of growth will your evaluation tell about your design journey?